Good morning, boys and girls. It's Miss Rosanne here. I've got your Sunday school lesson for Sunday, August the 23rd. My goodness, we've got a week left in August, and just about all of you started school this past week. And I know you had such a great time. It was exciting because you got to see your teachers, your friends that you haven't gotten to see in such a long time. I know some parts of school may have looked different. Some of you have to wear masks, some of you don't, but that's just part of it. Hopefully that won't last too long. But I hope you had a great week, and I'm still praying that you guys have a great year and that you continue to be at school. And if you didn't go to school and your parents chose for you to stay at home and do school on the computer, that's okay too. I'm sure you had such a great time, and that looks different, but I'm sure you had loads of fun, okay? But today our lesson is titled, I Can Be Faithful. And it comes from Daniel chapter 6, and it's the whole chapter, verses 1 through 28. And we've been talking about Daniel the whole month of August, and he's done some pretty cool things. Our objectives for today, we're going to know that Daniel remained faithful to God through his actions. We're going to think about this by being faithful as being where you are supposed to be and doing what you are supposed to do. Whew, that's a tongue twister. And we're going to do this by choosing to be faithful to God through your actions. And of course, our application verse, which is back here, it's Proverbs 20, verse 11. And it says, even a child is known by his doings, whether his work be pure and whether it be right. Okay? And our theme is remaining faithful during opposition. Such a good lesson for just starting back to school, and next week, you got a busy week. You're going to be there all week except for Wednesdays if you go to Haleyville. And I know every school's kind of different. I've got a picture I'm going to show you guys, and a lot of you are familiar with this animal, especially if you're a Haleyville Lions, Aurora Lions, which you may not be a Haleyville Lion. You could be a bear, you could be a bobcat, or you could even be a tiger, and that's okay. But today we're going to talk about the lion, and there's a reason for that. So, and you may be familiar with the lion because of the movie The Lion King, which I love that movie. It's such a good movie. But today we're going to hear a story about some actual lions and a real man, Daniel. Okay, he was put in an area filled with these lions, and because of Daniel's faithfulness to God, we're going to listen to some facts about these lions, and then we're going to talk about the story of Daniel. And I want you to remember these facts because they're pretty amazing, okay? Number one. Lions usually live in groups of 10 or 15 called prides. If you remember the Pride Land in The Lion King, they had one big lion that was on the rock, and he was kind of like the king, and then he had all these other lions or whatever. It's called a pride, okay? Female lions, lionesses, they're better hunters than the males, and they do most of the hunting for the pride. Wow, who would have thought a girl would have been a hunter? That's pretty cool, huh? Awesome. The average male lion, he weighs 400 pounds, while the average female lion weighs around 290 pounds. That is pretty big. If you take, let's see, most of you guys probably weigh 50 or 60 pounds. If you take two of you, so you would need like tons of you guys, probably two of you would make 100 pounds, so you would need like 8 of you to make 400 pounds to make the weight of a male lion. That's a bunch of weight, isn't it? So lions can reach the speed of up to about 50 miles per hour, but only in short periods of time because they lack stamina, and stamina is like their strength to keep going, okay? Lions in the wild, they live for an average of 12 to 16 years. But if they're in captive, they live up to be 25 years old. And if you remember, I think maybe a month or so ago, the lion, Una at UNA, the female lion, she passed away. And I think she was 17, maybe. Don't count my words. I think she was 17, but now Leo is still living. And they're what you would call in captive. Or like if you go to a zoo, those lions are captive. They're not wild and out in the safari or in the jungle or anything like that. A lion's roar can be heard from 5 miles away, and I thought that was pretty amazing. Male lions are easy to recognize because they have that distinctive look to them. Okay, they have that mane. A female lion needs 11 pounds of meat a day, and a male needs 15 pounds of meat or more a day. In the wild, lions rest for about 20 hours a day.
Yeah.
Can you imagine sleeping for 20 hours? That'd be a whole day. That means you'd wake up for like 4 hours. So you'd wake up, say you wake up at 8 a.m., you would be awake from 8 to 12, and then you'd sleep until 8 o'clock the next day. That's a lot of sleep, isn't it?
Yeah.
Lions are the second largest big cat species in the world because the tiger is the number one species. That's pretty cool, huh? So that's just some cool facts about the lion. Look at those teeth. See those teeth?
They're sharp.
They are sharp.
But they can kill you.
They could kill you, yeah. That's right.
But they can stop.
Okay. So today we're going to talk about staying faithful to God even when it is hard. And what do we usually do when we go through tough times? For me, I usually pray. Sometimes I cry. But most of the time, if I'm going through a tough time or if I've got questions about different things or I'm not getting the answers that I thought I would get, I pray. So staying faithful is something we don't normally do. It's hard for us, just like writing your name with the other hand. Like if you were to write your name with your right hand and it gets messed up and you have to write with your left hand, it's hard, right? But we've learned about some people who were faithful to God. They showed their faithfulness by choices they made and the things they did. Do you know who those three people were? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Yes. They proved their loyalty to God by refusing to bow and worship the king's idol. Over and over, they put Daniel put God first, even when he knew he might have to suffer. So today we're going to learn about a time Daniel cared more about what God wanted him to do than anything else. And the more we practice doing the right thing when trouble comes, the better we will get at it. So we're going to learn how to be more faithful to God, okay? You should have, I can't remember because it's been so long. You should have gotten a copy of this story, I think. It's T3-13. If you want to follow along, that's our story today, okay? You can follow along with it, and you can also go ahead and get your field notes out. We're going to light this on the back, okay? Go ahead and get those out for me. All right. Today we're going to talk about King Darius. In beginning in Daniel 6, there's a new king. His name King Darius. Yay! So realizing how big his kingdom was, King Darius set 120 princes over the kingdom, and over these he appointed 3 presidents. Okay? So of these 3 presidents, Daniel was the boss. Okay? Daniel was the boss. So Daniel was favored above them all. King Darius knew there was something different about Daniel and his great abilities and wisdom. Because of this, he planned to put Daniel in charge over his entire kingdom. Yay, Daniel! Woo, yay! As the king's favorite, the other presidents and princes, they became very jealous of Daniel. That jealousy grew into so much hatred. They began to look for something to accuse Daniel of. They wanted Daniel gone, but they could not find him doing anything wrong. He was faithful and trustworthy, so they decided the only way they could get rid of Daniel was to have a plan that would use his faithfulness to God against him. Okay. This was very sneaky, very sneaky. They went before the king and they complimented the king, and they told him that they wanted his kingdom to last forever. And that sounded so good to King Darius. Now they had his attention. They continued with their plan. Because he was such a great king, there needed to be a law. This law would state that for the next 30 days, any person who prayed to any god or any man other than King Darius would be thrown into the lion's den. Oh no. They insisted he sign a law so it could not be changed, and that is exactly what King Darius did. He felt proud. Ooh, felt so proud. Everyone should give him such honor and respect. Obviously, he had a pride problem, just like King Belshazzar. I have trouble saying that, sorry. And we learned what happened to him. So as soon as Daniel heard about the law, what do you think he did? What's he do?
To God.
He did very good. He did not panic. He did not worry. He went home and he prayed like he usually did. Daniel's habit was to talk to God at least 3 times a day. He even kept the windows open because he was praying toward his hometown of Jerusalem, just as King Solomon had told them to do many years earlier. And you can find that in 2nd Chronicles chapter 6, verses 36 through 39. And of course, the princes and the presidents, what were they doing? We see you, Daniel. We're watching you.
They were spying on him.
That's right, Josie. They were spying on them.
He is spying.
So they ran to King Darius and reminded him of his new law and what would happen if someone went against their orders. Then, with great pride and probably excitement, they announced Daniel was the one who went against the king and his law. When he heard it was Daniel, the king was very sad. All that day, he tried to think of a way to get Daniel out of this mess that he had put him in. The officials again insisted it had to be done because it was the law and it could not be changed. Before they put Daniel in the lion's den, the king said to Daniel, "The God who you faithfully serve, he will deliver you." With that, Daniel was thrown into the lion's den, as you can see right here. They threw him into the lion's den. There he is in the lion's den.
And they were like, "Bye-bye, Daniel."
King Darius went back to his palace. The king was so upset and worried, he could not eat or sleep. He knew what he had done was wrong, right?
Nothing else.
So early the next morning, he did not send a servant. He went himself. There he is. He went himself to check on Daniel, and as he approached the lion's den, he yelled, "Daniel, I know you trust and serve a living God, but was he able to deliver you from the lions? Is your faith still in God?" Perhaps there was a moment of silence as the king listened to hear Daniel's voice or the roar of the lions. Daniel answered, "I'm here because my God sent his angel to shut the mouths of the lions. I am innocent before God and before you." The king was filled with excitement and joy. Yay! He ordered Daniel to be lifted from the lion's den. Lift him out. To their amazement, Daniel was not hurt at all. No scratches, no bites, no broken bones. But the king's emotions went from joy to anger, and he demanded all the men who falsely accused Daniel to be thrown into the lion's den. Unlike Daniel, the lions immediately destroyed those men. Now, there was to be a new law. King Darius stated everyone should tremble with fear in honor to the God whom Daniel trusted. He is the living God, and his kingdom will never be destroyed. God rescues and saves those who trust in him. And he performs miracles because I saw it myself when he rescued Daniel from the power of the hungry lions. Daniel was rewarded for being faithful. Isn't that amazing? So because Daniel showed such faith in God, he delivered him from the mouths of those lions. So if you have your field notes, I want you to turn to the back. Sorry, my kitty likes to be up here when I do these lessons. So the character trait we've been learning this week is how we can be faithful. It's going to be this blue one right here. Whoop, right there. That blue one. He doesn't like when I put him down. Sorry. So if you get you a crayon or a marker, I want you guys to write the word faithful in this blank. And the definition for faithful is underneath it, okay? So write faithful in that blank. And it says being where I am supposed to be and doing what I am supposed to do. That's faithful. So that's the character trait we're learning. And when we are faithful, that's what we do. We're where we're supposed to be, doing what we're supposed to do. So Daniel was faithful to God historically from the time Daniel... Put him down, baby. Historically, from the time Daniel was taken as a slave in Babylon to the time of King Darius, Daniel would have been much older. So many people who have studied the Bible, they believe Daniel had been in captivity at least 70 years. So he'd been captive from Babylon, from Jerusalem to Babylon for 70 years. So in other words, Daniel did not wake up one day and say, I think I will be faithful today. I think I will pray 3 times a day, even if it means being thrown into a den of lions. He had been developing the habit and being faithful his entire life. So he had been there for 70 years, and he did that every day for 70 years. And then they decided to make this law, and he still did it, okay? No matter who the king was, what government was in charge, where he was placed, or what his job was, Daniel chose to be faithful. He was where he was supposed to be, and he did what he was supposed to do. In these little boxes, don't do anything in those yet. I know you can probably read those directions. We're going to talk about that in just a few minutes. Don't hop down there yet, okay? So our application verse. Even a child is known by his doings, whether his work be pure and whether it be right. Proverbs 20, verse 11. That's King James Version. So what was Daniel known for? Think about it. Were the princes and presidents surprised that Daniel continued to be faithful to God, knowing the consequence of being thrown into a lion's den? No. Daniel was known for his faith, okay? They knew Daniel would be faithful to his God no matter what, or they wouldn't have devised this plan. So would those you live with or your friends with you say that about you? If you are a Christ follower, a Christian, you may not get it right every time, but you should ask God to help you make the necessary changes in your life to be faithful in all the areas in your life, okay? So what we're going to do, we're going to talk about some different things, and I've wrote some words on a whiteboard, okay? And now you can look at those 4 boxes, okay? So how many of you like tests at school? I don't. I'm in college and I still don't like tests, but it's part of it. So would you say Daniel passed the test when it came to being faithful to God? I say so. Daniel not only showed us what being faithful means, but he also demonstrated it with his actions despite the consequences. So Daniel opened the window unashamed and unafraid when he prayed even after the law was passed. He could have chosen to pray where others would not see him. He could have left the window shut. He could have stayed in bed or knelt at his bed where nobody could see him. But Daniel was aware and fully dependent on God's presence in his life, and he was completely faithful to God. And that's how we should be in our lives today too. So you can be where you are supposed to be and do what you are supposed to do when it is easy. But what if it causes you trouble or someone makes fun of you? Will you continue to be faithful? What will you do if someone makes fun of you for being faithful to attend church each week? What if someone spreads gossip about your friend? Will you be faithful to that friend and stand up for him or her? I want you guys to really pay attention to this last little part, okay? So these words that I've wrote: home, church, school, with friends, okay? And that's what these little boxes are. Home, church, school, school and with friends, I think. Did I get that right? Yes. So home, church, with friends, and school, okay? And the direction says, write or draw 2 specific ways you will choose to be faithful in each of the following areas, okay? So we're going to talk about home first. So there's 4 areas where your faithfulness can be tested, okay? So we're going to brainstorm some ways. So how can we be faithful at home? How can you be faithful at home?
Praying to Jesus.
Praying to Jesus, very good. Obey your parents, do your chores, maybe help others when
they get hurt.
Say words that help others even when like you're mad or something like that. You can read your Bible every morning, right? All right, so next is, how can we be faithful at church? And guys, this is a big one right now because Sunday school is a camera and you watch it on YouTube. Big churches even, you can watch it on a camera. You can watch it on Facebook Live. Or what should we do? If we're not sick and we're fully capable, should we come to the church house? Yes, because that's showing our obedience to God and being faithful. And I know there's certain situations and certain things that why you can't come to the building, and that's okay. Which our church, we have 3 different ways you can watch the service. Facebook Live, you can come in our sanctuary or in the fellowship hall if you don't want to sit around a bunch of people. You can wear a mask if you want to, but it's not required. And then you can sit in the parking lot and listen to it on the radio. So that's how we can be faithful at church. Like if we feel good and we're doing great, then we should be there. Whether it's in the parking lot, in the fellowship hall, or in the actual sanctuary listening to Brother Jeff, like we should be there. Let's attend church even when we would rather do something else. Doesn't matter what it is. And I know sometimes we might be out of town or we may be on vacation with our family, and those times every now and then, that's okay. But if we're fully capable, then we need to attend church when we can. But when we're at church, we need to pay attention, participate by singing, praise God, pray when it's time, and instead of goofing around, we need to serve when you're needed, okay? All right, so the next one is school. This is a big one, guys. Listen to this. How can we be faithful at school? This is tricky, okay? I will be on time. That means if mom comes in your room at 6:30, Josie, get up. It's time for school. You need to get up so you can be on time for school because you got to get up, you got to brush your teeth, got to fix your hair, got to put your clothes on, got to eat your breakfast, got to make sure your backpack's ready or your lunchbox, your snack bag, so you can be in the car and on your way to school to be there on time.
But sometimes it takes a while to get to school.
Thank you. Sit down, please.
Well, it takes so long to get to Jeff's school.
I'm sorry, guys. They're here with me today, and they're answering my questions, which I don't mind. But you'll be on time. Do your work when you're supposed to. Be kind to every person, even if you don't want to. Be kind, okay? You'll listen and not goof off. Pray before you eat your lunch. Speak up about God when you have the chance, okay? All right, and the last one is with your friends. How can you be faithful with friends? You can be loyal to your friends. Don't say bad things about your friends to others. Help them if you can. Tell your friends about Jesus. Pray for them. Pray with them. Be kind to your friends. And don't tell stories and don't lie to your friends, okay? So that's a big one. So you can write some of those, write 2 of those in these boxes in each box, or you can write what you think you would need to do in those boxes. So, I want to read Hebrews 10:25, okay? And this is, there's times that it's not convenient or you'd rather stay at home, but being faithful to God's house is important to God. And according to Hebrews 10, verse 25, it says, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together as the manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much the more as ye see the day approaching. So if you're able to come to God's house and you're able to stand up for Him and you're able to follow all those things, then we need to do that, okay? So as mentioned earlier, this was not the first time Daniel had to show how faithful he was. Daniel was faithful all along in all situations, whether they were big or whether they were small, okay? So he did not wait to be faithful when it was time for the lion's den. And you and I, we can be faithful in all these areas, home, school, church, and with our friends, as we learn to trust a God who is always faithful to us. This great reason about Daniel in the lion's den is not recorded in the Bible for us to say, yay, way to go, Daniel, for being faithful. Remember, the Bible is God's story, so this chapter in Daniel's life is not to point us to Daniel, but to who? God. We must see how God is the faithful one. He kept Daniel safe. Daniel was faithful to God because God had been faithful to him. So your next step is to choose to be faithful to God and through your actions. That's the biggest thing, is we can say that we are faithful to God, but guys, our actions speak louder than those words coming out of our mouth, okay? So I pray you guys have a great week. I'll see you guys at church in a little while. If you ever have questions or if you ever need anything, don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can text me, you can call, you can send a message on Facebook, however you need to do it. And I'll be glad to talk to you. I'll be glad to pray with you or whatever you need, okay? I love you all. Bye.